Hi guys, welcome to the 2x e-commerce podcast show. This is Kunle, your host, the host of the 2x e-commerce podcast show. Well, on today's episode, I'm joined by Bart Mroz. He's the co-founder and CEO of SUMO Heavy. Now, SUMO Heavy is a digital commerce consulting and strategy firm. He is a serial entrepreneur who's been involved in several consulting businesses. He's had a lot of experience, years. He's also a fellow podcaster. If you're into the e-commerce podcasting space at all, you'd have heard of SUMO Heavy and the e-commerce. I think it's called In the Ring, SUMO Heavy by SUMO Heavy, and e-commerce minutes. I know e-commerce minutes has been around for a while, and I just thought, okay, let me bring him on. Let's have insights on how they scale. Who's talking about how they've scaled a business from 0 to $100 million, dollars in 18 months. I want to just unravel a lot. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Bart to the show. Welcome, Bart.
Hey there. How are you?
Fantastic. Okay. I probably haven't done you sufficient justice in the intro.
Oh, that's a lot of justice there, sir.
Could you take a minute or less to introduce yourself and what you're doing in SUMO Heavy and your podcasting, journey and your podcast, please?
Sure. So SUMO Heavy is a digital commerce consulting firm. We're coming up on our 10 years as SUMO Heavy, but my business partner and I have been doing this for almost 20 years, and in different categories. He's been doing mostly e-commerce. I've been in technology for a long time. We've been doing, working as a development shop in the beginning and kind of converted ourselves into more of a consulting shop, just because the journey with clients eventually gets there, where we are strategically helping clients with growth and business and technology processes, internal team help, something across where, back when we first started, it was just a basic Magento development shop. We just kind of picked up jobs and built stuff as when Magento first came out. Our journey to sort of podcasting was, we've always been interested in it. We've been around podcasting since basically what the term got coined. So my director of marketing and I have been doing it a video format or a podcast for a very long time. E-commerce Minute came about because Anchor FM came out. It's now owned by Spotify, and we just wanted a quick short show that we can just put out there, and we tested it, and then it took off. We're episode 800 or 600, whatever we are, in like 3 years.
So how often do you publish? Daily or?
5 times a week, weekdays, every day. There's a story every day.
That's incredible dedication.
Yeah, it took a life of its own. Little tricks to it. We used to do it daily, literally record daily because Anchor FM was just that way. We figure out other systems, and we still use Anchor. We love it. But now we do a recording once a week of all the shows, but there's a lot of production work before that. It's pretty, the funny thing is it's a show that's 10 to 20 minutes long. It's a lot of production work because it's a lot of writing, a lot of research. That one's really long. But we do it. It's a good branding exercise for us. We've been sponsored multiple times. It's kind of fun. In a Ring is really just scratching my own itch type of thing. It's trying to do some interviews, some internal sort of interviews, outside people, conversations. We've been always playing around with a longer show. And I think this one is going to stick for now. So we'll see how it goes. We don't have to produce as much of it because it's just an interview like this. It's pretty easy to do. Longer. We'll see how it goes. It's only once a week for now. I wanted to make it twice a week, but we see how we fare out. You
get the momentum eventually and you decide what works best for you.
Yeah. I'm also not the only one doing it. So we have my director of marketing, and we have a junior marketing coordinator doing a lot of the work with us. So the 3 of us do a lot of it.
And e-commerce minutes is still running side by side within.
Actually, after we record this, I get to record next week's episodes.
That's incredible.
So it's a day of podcasting.
Well, okay. I just tend to, take out Tuesdays and just record as many episodes as I can.
Yep.
And stay ahead.
That's usually what we do. Yeah, we do a morning session, an afternoon session, and then we have we now actually have an editor that just edits it. It's a little more edited because you kind of have to, whereas an interview is kind of easier.
Do you listen to Audible?
Yes, love it.
Have you
love
noticed
it with
the podcast on Audible?
I have not.
They're incredibly produced.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
There's
Yep. I have not. I'm a bigger fan of Audible for reading a book. So I used to live in New York. So for me, reading on a Kindle, reading on the phone, or just listening, the whole syncing system that they have is amazing. And that's just getting through books is so much fun.
Yeah. The podcasts, the quality, they're amazing. They're amazing. I digress.
I know we can talk about podcasting the whole time.
Okay. So let's talk about growth, because the core of what you do, I found it very fascinating that you've moved from more a technical deployment model to more strategic business consulting. Business, essentially assisting teams, especially with digital transformation, agile planning, and the like. How do you still develop in like Magento, or are you a step above that, so to say, like an Accenture or other?
We're like a boutique, if you one of those. No, we still do development work. We still do production work. Between Magento, Shopify, like pretty much anything. And that's just a part of the toolkit. We do a lot of custom work on the back end, integrations, big ERP systems, just working with clients really to figure out what is the best cost-effective way to do their business, and not just buying stuff off the shelf going because somebody's selling me that off-the-shelf product.
So you're not platform biased?
We are agnostic. Yes, we're partners with some of them just because it's part of what you do.
Yeah.
But other than that, we're very agnostic.
Let's talk headless commerce. I've ghost written some white papers for some of the big e-commerce platforms, and it's an interesting topic. Does it have legs? Pardon the pun not intended.
Yes. Kind of. It's like, ask me if PWA is a thing. Like, we have weird sort of, yes, headless is out there. I mean, so headless with certain products, we've done headless with Shopify because it works, right? BigCommerce is touting in as headless, but you can do the same thing in Magento. To me, it's very dependent on what the client needs. It's not dependent on, hey, Magento's selling this, we're going to just go with that platform, right? This might not be the right platform. There's plenty of people that got themselves into trouble buying Magento 1 enterprise licenses that should never be touching Magento ever. They should be on something like Shopify or WooCommerce or something small. That happens all the time. We have large clients that are still on Magento open source, and they're doing $50 to $100 million in sales, which is crazy, right? Like you would think, but because they're just, a lot of people are stuck on it. So for us, headless, it works for some, it works for others. Like, it depends on what you need to do. Something like Magento, yeah, you can put the front end on it and run with it and have a headless one, or it's the same thing with microservices. It's really dependent on what you're doing. High volume, high stakes type of sites should work, right? So there's definitely different areas that you can go through.
It's interesting. So do you think like the hosting, the rack spaces of the world will lose business, or would have to adapt, quite rapidly to like, self-hosted e-commerce platforms? It seems there's this transition to the cloud, going on. What do you think about, self-hosted versus, not just cloud, but, what's the term again? Where it's
sort of like Shopify,
almost like a service.
Yeah. I mean, SaaS. I mean, Yes and no. So Rackspace actually is heavily into cloud because they'll let you do all the admin work on the cloud stuff. And obviously people are hosting it. The beauty with Shopify is they will do all that work for you. So for example, you can have a site, we've done this before, where say it runs a Magento, but then you have sales. We have some clients that have sales seasonally, not seasonally, but like every few quarters that rival something like Kylie Cosmetics, which was like the higher spikes.
Yeah.
And they have spikes for like 2 days. What you would do is you can just run that site with Shopify for spikes.
Over that period, over that sale period.
Yeah, over that period, right? So
That's
you kind of
interesting.
adjust it, right? And then in the back end, right, you don't have to have everything in the process. You put it into the ERP system on the back end system and do all the processing in the back. So there's ways going around that. That's why I said going with just one platform or just one solution, you have to look at the whole business of what it does. If you have that spike every 6 months or every 4 months, then you figure out what those sales are and you can just leave that there and just run the rest of it for
let's step back to that example again. I didn't quite get it. So you're saying over the sale period, say we're running Magento open source, so over the sale period, do we switch the entire platform to Shopify?
So for sales, right? So the sales are for particular items, right? So there's particular items you can kind of channel through and you make it, because Shopify is really good at scaling at that moment. So you can do it that way. You can actually
Shopify
scale,
Plus or
it doesn't matter, believe it
advanced.
or not. Yeah.
We need to talk about Shopify, about all the tiers.
We will. I will tell you. Yeah. So for me, the whole, so we've done a site on Magento that was rated to do 20,000 orders an hour, but that's a lot of servers. That's a lot of, yes, I said 20,000 orders. That's a lot of servers. That's a lot of setup. That's a lot of things. It wasn't doing that much, but it was set up to do it, and it actually tested that way. But you don't have to do it that way. There's a lot more, and this was a lot of years ago. There's a lot more technology and architecture that you can do that slows it down. But now we can talk about Shopify Plus.
Yes. Okay. So they have tiers: basic, advanced, and plus. And there's an onboarding concierge service for the plus and all that kind of stuff. How much is the marketing and how much of it is actually practical?
It's about the same system. They do have a bigger scale on it now. It used to be so Plus was they figure out they need to go more enterprise level type thing. So they figure out, it used to be called something else. I was actually there when they started talking about that. So the Plus version is what they say, it's a white glove sort of service. Not everybody needs it. I think the Plus is good for enterprises that want to scale, have a contact. When it comes to, I believe now they have a separate sort of, they kind of split the whole architecture of them too, but it's the same system. So you can do a few other things that does it, but it's a lot of marketing, but it's also, I feel like you get a better quality of support for it. So if you're a big growing company that's not complex, it's not a bad way to go about it.
So a client of ours was in WooCommerce, and they were just getting fed up of speed, hosting, performance. So they decided
you're building a product on top of WordPress, right?
Yeah.
WordPress is good for certain things.
Exactly. So they were moving to Shopify. Now, the big problem for them was the fact that they sell, so for every product, they could have 30 or so variations from size to color to fit.
Yep.
And it could even go to like 80. So they figured out that the SKU count could be, was it like 40,000 or 50,000? They went to Shopify. They're like, your basic wouldn't do it, your advanced wouldn't do it, would your plus do it?
Nope.
So again, sold to plus and saying we'll figure it out after you sign up, and they just cautiously pulled back to figure out an alternative way of presenting the data. But why are they so? Why are the limits in SKU count on Shopify?
Because that's how it got built. you got to remember that the Shopify wasn't built for enterprise from the beginning, right? They're trying to kind of fix those things.
You'd have thought,
And bigger.
you'd have thought by now.
Yes, you would think. I mean, I understand why, because they're trying to do land grab. What they actually had in their favor is when Magento started announcing due dates for Magento 2, right? So think about this. If you're a Magento 1, you spend all this money on licensing, it's kind of working for you. And then basically to move to Magento 2, you re-platform again. It's not an upgrade, it's a re-platform. So if you're doing 10 to $25 million in sales, you go, okay, a lot of money went that way. Now I got to spend a lot more money and 2 years of my life re-platforming. What do I do now? Do I need all those stuff? Do I look for it? So Shopify actually jumped in. So anybody for under the $10 million mark, they just jumped in straight in. They could sell it. So that's why they got a big, huge land grab against anybody else. And then Magento, went upscale after they got bought by Adobe. It's basically an enterprise product. It's wrapped into their stuff. So you have this kind of like middle it's missing right now. People are trying to fill gaps.
BigCommerce would step in, but
they're trying, but it's not. It's not there yet.
No.
So we're friends with Work Area, which is a new kind of comer on the platform. They're just down the street from our office. It's just a e-commerce firm that's been around since like '92. They've done a lot of work. Yes, for a very, very long time. They have a system called Work Area. It's a Ruby on Rails, clean. It's really well. They have a shot. We'll see where it goes. We like it. We haven't built anything with it yet, but it's very, very. It's like there's no crazy about it, and it's also open source too, so you can actually use it. So there's definitely that middle ground right now is kind of wild west of who's trying to. The other one we've been looking at, I know we just went into platform world, is Shopware. From Germany. It's fairly popular.
I've heard about them. Yeah,
it's been coming up lately, and I think their new version is really good. So there's definitely options.
Yep.
But you would think Shopify would be a lot faster for their enterprise if they want to have that land grab.
Yeah. But I have to give it to Shopify in terms of what they do, the user friendliness of managing it launching and managing it from.
I'm with you. Yeah.
From an e-commerce entrepreneur standpoint, there's no platform that's better.
No. From the ease of use, and I think.
Ease of use, yeah.
People kind of go always like, what would you start with if you started again? Like if you started a shop right now, which we actually are talking about some of our stuff. Maybe Shopify. There's nothing like, why would you do anything else? Like if you want to do apparel, you want to try apparel, you hand an apparel, Shopify is the best one, because then you use something like Printful and Shopify. It's already integrated. You don't have to do much.
Exactly.
Done, right? It's print on demand. Yes, the print on demand is not always it's quality, but it's not. There's those steps of quality, right? But to try it out and test your market, it's the best way to go about it. Which is the other side of it, like when people try to start their businesses, they're like, oh, I need this. And I'm like, no, just put Shopify. The beauty of Shopify is actually did you ever see their buttons? So they have buttons for there's a smaller tier, I think it's $9 a month, and you can just do buttons with their admin. So it's like PayPal buttons, right? Try that. Like that's like where you should start and see where it goes. I don't think you should go crazy with developing stuff,
I agree. There's this other platform that was started to be at the start of when Shopify was emerging. There's another one, I think it was Ron Bonobos actually ran in it for a bit.
Spree Commerce?
Spree Commerce, yes. How are they? Where are they? What's happened to them?
They're trying to be, so there's a offshoot from Spree. We just seen it. I don't remember. The problem with Spree is the beginning of Spree, it's a Ruby on Rails platform. We never it wasn't the greatest platform, like written platform. It made sense. They're trying to be a platform for marketplaces mostly. But it's a heavy platform. It's heavy to do. They tried to build on it.
Is it Ruby on Rails or?
It's Ruby on Rails, yeah. So there's plenty of companies that are trying to use it. It's, I don't know. We've had weird feelings about it all the time.
Okay. Okay, so you've got the platform. What other layers? What are the fundamental layers to build a rock solid foundation for scale? Say, I've got the product here, I know my market, and I don't want to mess anything up from a technology standpoint, from a perspective of scale. I've got the exposure. Say I've been on Shark Tank or whatever. You're ready for business essentially. So you're saying you go Shopify, ideally, right?
Ideally, I
Okay.
think your first thing is having a good advisor or consultant, and not
Mm-hmm.
just because we are one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Either internal staff that knows what they're talking about from technology perspective,
Mm-hmm.
or somebody that you can trust. You don't have to hire them, but have some consulting. From there, it's about let's figure out, because that person will help you figure out what's the best strategy to go about it. Would it be from platform to hosting to your backend systems? There's accounting, there's financials, there's tax, there's, you can literally go a whole list. And I think that's where people get a little in trouble, because they don't realize how many little pieces that you have to deal with. And every one of them will take a chunk of change, right? Take a little bit of money out, and your job is to have that margin be as big as possible,
Exactly.
right? So the idea, and that goes for every business. It goes for from small e-commerce shops to ginormous ones, where you can you can increase those margins with looking at your systems and doing it well.
Yeah.
So there's definitely ways of going around it. When you're a small business, I mean, Shopify is one of those things that it has everything built in, so you can start there,
Yeah.
and they can kind of, as you go along, see where the stuff is, and then you kind of go, what margins can I increase? What can I cut? What can I figure out? So you're self-sustaining. We always have this example of, I sell a t-shirt for $50 and you sell a t-shirt for $50, but it takes you $50 to sell it. It takes me 25. Our
Yeah.
job is to get you to be, that margin be bigger.
Yeah. Makes sense. Makes a ton of sense. Okay. So let's talk about scale. Scaling and infrastructure. How do you? So you guys have been around, the block for 20 years now, for close to 20 years, over 20 years. So what's the DNA of a fast growth company? Have you sort of modeled it out?
So we get to deal with, this is fun. We actually deal with large clients and small ones, but also startups.
Yep.
I guess fast growing is really well funded and also goes to the right people and the right experts.
Yep.
We've dealt with those. We have a company that they were just happened to be well funded, so they can do it. They went to amazing design shop that did all the comms, that let us do very quickly, but also let us take them on and develop sites really quickly and then scale.
Sites, not just one site.
It's site, and then just became, because it's a marketplace, so it
Okay.
was multiple marketplaces, connection to everything. Some of the funnest we had, but it's all fast. But they were also well funded. If you're not well funded, the growth is slower. It's going to be slower, but with the right marketing, with the right sort of team, you can do it. The biggest thing is just laying out the process. And I think where people get in trouble is startups. There's just want to move fast, move fast, move fast. The problem with that is you're not thinking about every sort of decision making impact on the other decision, right? So for us, when we deal with clients, we try to slow them down just a little bit in the beginning, kind of map everything else, the business process, the technology process, and get them to a point where all that feels like a lot of slowdown, to where we can just go build and do fast things. The old sayings, fast is smooth, smooth is fast. I mean, so it's one of those. That's how we like to do it. But I think that's the DNA of understanding things you don't know and bringing the right people into it.
What about company culture?
We've dealt with everything from big corporate things to fast
Okay.
startups. I've been around startups for a while. I mean, to me, company culture is like, be nice. I mean, that's the thing. I don't think that, the idea that old school, working 80, 100-hour weeks is okay either.
Yep.
That's not okay.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
there's ways around that. That's just, listen, I understand in the VC world or startup world where you get funding and you try to do, shareholder value and build stuff quick, that sometimes you have to do those, but there's ways not to do it.
Mm. Let's go back to Shopify. And it's a checkout.
Yeah, that's all it is.
I'm concerned about, so the checkout process, the number of for me personally, the UX person in me just looks at the checkout and I'm like, this is not like 100% fully optimized. Yes, they ask for email at the start, but look at the number of fields they do. There's no, address completion there. It works. It works. There are certain things they do really well. No one actually is doing, which is like, checking out with your mobile phone, for instance, your mobile number.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about their checkouts? Would you, with the Shopify, is that an advantage for Shopify Plus where you have the ability to, reimagine the checkout process, or is
Yes.
it just the way we just live with it?
I think they spend a lot of time on UX and they've done a lot of studies of how people check out. I think that's the biggest thing. As much as some of us don't like it, problem is also like, there's technical people like us and there's the rest of the world. So I think there's part of that. I get why they do the email in the beginning, because once you have a Shopify account, basically, even as a shopper, no matter what Shopify account, like that's what they switched to now. No matter where you shop, if it's a Shopify account, you can just use it. It's like Apple Pay or Amazon Pay or Google Pay.
Wallet bit. Okay, so it's a wallet.
Right.
Okay.
So basically it's a wallet, right? So if it's a Shopify store, you basically are across the board. You can shop with any one of those. So that's why they actually just changed to the Shopify Pay thing, to Shop Pay or whatever they're calling it.
Yeah.
You can use that. So that's where they headed with it. I guess for me as a user, I'm okay with it because I've used it enough times where I know where it is. So it's like a familiarity of, this is how it looks, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Just leave it at that. I don't think they've dealt with it for so long.
Yeah.
I don't think changing it. I think what they did with the Shop Pay thing is that they got rid of. It's sort of like Apple Pay, right? Where Apple Pay, to me, if you have it integrated in your shop, is amazing. You don't have to put anything in. It's already done. One click.
Yeah. There's a lot of Apple Pay deployment and on product pages, which seems to make a lot of sense. Impulse purchases.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't need to configure anything, you just hit pay and it's done.
Pretty easy.
Yeah. I've been working on a lot of checkouts recently, and I just looked at the Shopify Pay thing. I think the brilliance about Shopify Pay is the fact that it's a wallet.
Yep.
But that onboarding form, it could definitely be optimized in my opinion. Okay. Right. Okay. So I guess next thing really I want to talk about is digital transformation. It's massive. It's huge. I didn't realize, how many industries are actually, undergoing digital transformation. Look at the publishing industry. I'm involved in the publishing industry, and it's just incredible, and it's almost like there's a mass extinction, event going on in many industries. And if you do not adapt and, transform, you'll go, you just, you die. What's your take on digital transformation? How do you do it properly at the enterprise level? What the best in class clients of yours, done that just made their transformation exercise a success?
So I hate that word. That's first. It's on our site on purpose, but I hate that word. The problem. So the funny thing for us is that because we work e-commerce, you kind of are already done. You're there. I think people need to realize like a lot more technology, a lot more online things are happening, especially now. Like we're in this weird spot of this pandemic where it's like it's just there, from telehealth to schools to everything else. People have no choice. You basically are forced into doing digital transformation automatically, right? So doing it right, in next year or so, it's going to be interesting. But doing it right, it's involving every part of your business. Every department has to be involved. You can't just start. It can't start at the tech level or the IT department. It just can't. It has to be from top down, from your marketing to every operational, everything else, and changing over to it. But I think you're going to see a lot more businesses figure that out because they won't survive. And that's tricky, right? There's plenty of law firms that are still not there. There's plenty of banks that are just figuring out. Here, actually, just in New Jersey, there's a call out for COBOL developers because everything runs still on COBOL,
Wow.
and nobody knows how to do it. So I think moving, companies over is going to be an interesting time. How to do it right, I think, is just involving, like I said, involving the whole organization from top down. It's not going to be bottom up. It's not going to be from a technology department on. It's going to be from the whole organization itself.
Okay. So besides Shopify and Magento, what are your top platforms?
Or top platforms?
The top 3 platforms you guys work with?
For Shopify, obviously Magento. We've dabbled around BigCommerce, but we do a lot of back-end stuff and some back-end integrations, ERP systems. So there's definitely that. For me, I'm going to put a work area there because I think it has a shot.
Work area.
The problem with something like Salesforce e-commerce cloud, whatever they're calling it, because everybody's calling e-commerce cloud for everything all of a sudden. They're old school demandware stuff. Problem with that is you have to be a full-fledged partner to actually work on it, which is tricky. I think the bigger ones are going to die off a little bit, meaning that something like ATG, which is now Oracle, who else is out there? IBM is still around. I don't think they're going to die off, but I think they need to change. Something like IBM Westfield needs to up their game. ATG, Oracle Commerce, who knows?
Need to cancel that. Sorry about that.
That's okay. You can edit that.
Oh dear. Okay.
What's your thoughts? From platform stuff. I'm assuming you guys work only on Shopify.
Shopify BigCommerce predominantly, and we've dabbled a bit with clients who've been on the Magento platform. Initially, so we used to do like SEO, and SEO is primarily for Magento commerce clients. And then Shopify came in and, really got everybody rethinking, what e-commerce hosting is all about. And so now it's like 70% Shopify. We're advised to just move to Shopify just for the simplicity and to reduce just the reliance on the IT department. And then there's still Magento. Some still need Magento for what it is, for its enterprise and multi-channel capabilities.
Our biggest problem, like Shopify stuff, is that building your own stuff, you still gotta host it. Any service that you do, yes, there's plenty of services out there, but we have a client right now that basically their contracts with their end client, it's like a Google, they're not allowed to use third-party stuff because they meaning that they can use Shopify, but they can't use other plugins because of data. So we have to build them all. So we still got to run them. We had a Magento just all in one shop.
So they're all custom apps you build?
For everything.
Wow.
So anything, because they are not allowed to move that data, like have that
data sharing is a massive problem with apps and on Shopify. Security.
Well, you saw that, the fight between MailChimp and Shopify.
Huge.
right? They're like, no, you can't have it. So.
Yeah. Just simple notification apps, the amount of data they have privy to on in your store, and if that gets into the wrong hands, you're fried, really. So
Privacy concerns are huge. So
exactly, massive.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you just can't do it, so we have to build all that stuff. And if you're starting to do some complex things, if you're building your own apps, you still got to host them. You still got to figure that out. So basically, you have microservices on top of just the checkout. So there's a lot of those kind of, like I said, it all comes down to what is the best solution for the client. It doesn't matter about the platform.
Exactly. Okay, we're wrapping up now. I wouldn't let you go till you come into the lightning round. And this is how it works: 7 questions, and if you could use a sentence to answer them, that'd be brilliant. Okay, ready when you are. What advice would you give to yourself 5 years ago?
5 years ago, wow. Move to New York faster.
You're in Jersey. Okay, cool. Are you a morning person?
Yes.
Okay. What's your daily morning routine?
Before all this happened, usually get up, go to gym, and then go to work. That's usually the trial.
What 2 things can't you live without?
My wife. Probably my phone.
Okay. All right, cool. What book are you currently reading?
I have a problem. I read like 4 books at a time, but currently, I got a preview copy of Remarkable Retail from Steve Dennis. It is awesome. You guys all should buy it when it comes out.
Awesome. Okay, thanks. Okay, final. Okay, what 3 indispensable tools do you use for managing your business?
Bill.com, bench.co, and the Gmail suite, really.
Awesome. Okay. Right. So final question, what 1 piece of advice would you give to e-tailers keen on scaling, on growth, from your experience?
Have an amazing team internally, or have an awesome advisor or consultant that can help you, that's agnostic to everything.
Fantastic. All right. Thank you, Bart, for coming on the show. For listeners who've enjoyed listening up to this point, how best can they, follow you, reach out to you on social, on the web? What's the best way to?
So I'm Bart Mroz on everything, BRTMROZ, and SUMO Heavy on everything else too. So pretty easy to find.
We'll link to you in the show notes. All right. Thank you so much. It was incredible. Great stuff.
Thank you.